Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a Tarnation TV production hosted by Flat Out Racing Network. Everybody is one big happy family here in the NASCAR Racing 2003 community. Of course, this is the Talladega Challenge, race number 8 of season number 68. Such a tight race, especially in like the top 3. Not many points separate those guys. Like Josh Metallic had a good finish last week and actually leapfrogged a couple spots. He's in first place overall now, only by about 4 points. But you know what? I'll let Flat Out Racing do the talking, which consists of Kyle Matthews and Seth Cole.
As you mentioned, Blaine, with it being the 8th race on the season, that means that including tonight, only 3 races remain until we put together the at least 16 drivers that will battle it out in this season's chase for the championship. And Kyle, so far this season, we have seen 7 different drivers go to victory lane in the first 7 races. We've got nearly half of those drivers currently occupying wild card spots, not in the top 16, but inside the top 20. So we've got the battle there. As Blaine said, we got the battle for the regular season championship. And we saw last week that a driver can put together 65 really good laps, and then that final wreck at the end can completely change the landscape of where you're going to finish, and it shuffled up the point standings quite a bit coming into this race. So with all of those unknowns and 3 races left to go, drivers have got to start to feel the pressure right now, right? If they don't have an automatic lock-in with a victory in the win column, or if they don't have at least a comfortable margin between themselves and that 16 in the standing spot.
Yeah, and funny enough, the last couple of weeks, it seems like it's been a bit of a benefit to be kind of struggling in the standings. Last week we saw Rodney Solins come into the race, really struggling down in the point standings, needed a good run. He got his first win of the season last week, and then a week or two before that, we saw Denny Carroll really in the same type of situation. Needed a win or a good run. He ends up going to victory lane, helps his season out big time right there. So, these guys that are struggling right now in the standings, not all hope is lost right now.
Yeah, Donnie Garrett falls into that category as well, finding victory lane a couple of weeks ago outside the top 20 in points. And even drivers that haven't gone to victory lane last couple of weeks that have had really good runs. Go back to last week, Bobby Farrell getting through that big wreck through the tri-oval, bringing it home on the podium. He now sits just a bit below that 20th in the standings cut line, so definitely made up some good, valuable ground in last week's race. 66 laps each and every night, a lot of points on the table, including those halfway points as well, where the 10 stage points are given out. And of course, the top 10 score points at the completion of lap 33, which has thrown a nice little monkey wrench into the festivities here of season 68. But coming into tonight here, obviously a lot of different points of focus, and the point standings at the top of the board are super close. Metallic, DeSpirito, Grant Wesley right now, at least, looking like the favorites to potentially take this regular season championship. Now, Wesley has already gone to victory lane. Metallic and DeSpirito, they're still looking for their first trip to victory circle. If you're those 2 drivers coming into these final 3 races, are you big picture racing, looking for that regular season championship, which pays out the same amount of points as if you picked up a victory in these following 3 weeks? Or are you gunning for victory lane, saying, you know what, I've got a pretty decent gap back to that 16 in the standings cut line, which I think for most of them is 80 plus points? Do you kind of throw caution to the wind and say, you know what, I want the momentum of having a victory going into the postseason, so I'm still treating these upcoming 3 races as technically must-win scenario?
Well, if I was one of them too, if I was either Joe DeSpirito or Josh Metallic, if I have a chance to win the race, I'm going to go for it. I mean, with that, like you mentioned, they have a pretty big gap back to the 16th place in points right now. They can afford to try to gamble a little bit, try to go for the victory. But something interesting about the point standings heading into tonight, our points leader, Josh Metallic, is not in the field tonight. So keep that in mind.
Yep, great point. So we are going to be guaranteed a new points leader going into next week's race. Will be interesting to see where Metallic ends up at the conclusion of this race when the points are calculated, we had no Tim Nofsker in the field last week, and he ended up dropping from second in points to fourth in the standings. He is in the field here tonight, but now sits 37 points out of the top position, so looking to make up that ground. I mentioned that we've had 7 completed races. 7 different drivers have gone to victory lane, and in those 7 races, 7 different drivers started from the inside of the front row. Well, that streak has been snapped here tonight as the random qualifying draw gives Brian Schilling his second pole position on the season. Schilling will be leading us to green. Brian coming into this race currently 10th in the point standings. He is still searching not only for his first victory, but his first top 5 of season 68. Only 2 finishes inside the top 10 in these first 7 races. We'll see if the good starting track position, that number 1 pit stall, will maybe help him find victory circle. Denny Carroll, who has already been to victory lane this season, is going to share the outside of the front row. Javier Negron, Dennis McCarthy, they're going to make up row number 2 with John Godfrey, Greg Palmer in row 3. Tom Dixon and Randy Waugh,
Luigi.
They're back in row number 4 with your top 10 completed by Kelly Causey and Craig Hagley. Row 6 will be Billy Elliser, alongside of Doug Hewlick. Getting a little ahead of myself there. Tim Nofsker, who we just mentioned, he and Rodney Sullen's going to be in row number 7. Row 8 finds Keith Bynum and Mike Mangialardi. Row 9 will be Jeff Crivello and Brian Lovell, and your top 20 completed by the back-to-back defending champion Chuck McClure and Richard Martin. Mark Paglia, who comes into this race 5th in the point stands, another of our former winners on the season. He's back in row 11 alongside of Robert Spring. Row 12, mentioned Bobby Farrow with the podium finish last week. He shares that row with Grant Wesley. Jeremy Jeffries in row 13 alongside of Greg Lovell. Row 14, Bernie Mobbs, Ulysses Sandoval with your top 30 completed by Robert Breedlove and Joe DeSpirito. Row 16 finds Graham McDonald and Ken Roberts. Row 17, Pat Makarski and Michael Norman. Row 18, Glenn Harris, Tim Anderson. Row 19, Jeffrey Elliott and Bob Seminara with your final row, completing your full 40-car field tonight, Cody Lamas and Sean Turner. I mentioned about the fact that most of our race winners this season are inside of the top 16 in points. Grant Wesley, Tim Nofsker, Mark Paglia, 3rd, 4th, 5th in the overall points. Denny Carroll, 8th. But 3 of our winners this season currently find themselves positioned 18th, 19th, and 20th in points. That being Sullins, Garrett, and Causey. As long as you're in the top 20 in points with a victory, you get into what's dubbed a wild card position. And right now, as things were running at the conclusion of last week's race, 3 of those drivers having to take those wild card spots. Pretty safe bet we're going to see them accumulate enough points to get up into the top 16, but makes things interesting coming into this race here tonight with only 3 races left to go in the regular season.
Oh, yeah, that's always going to be something to keep an eye on. A lot of big names who have won races or who have won a race this season. We have yet to have a repeat winner. But some of those guys that have won a race this season, deep down in points, you'd think they'd be up there in the top 16. But these guys are racing it up for a wild card spot. Just goes to show you how competitive it's been this season.
And we always talk about the race within the race. For those that have been keeping track of the bracket challenge, we are into the final 4 on the winner's side of the bracket here tonight. Greg Lovell going to be taking on Joe DeSpirito. Denny Carroll is going to get an automatic bye into the finals on the winner's side of the bracket, as he was slated to take on Josh Metallic, and as Kyle already documented, Metallic not in the field here tonight. There are a few other battles we'll also be keeping an eye on, some one-on-one matchups on the loser's side of the bracket, as that's starting to narrow its way. It's round 3 on the loser's side of the bracket, with Robert Breedlove, Graham McDonald facing each other, Mike Mangialardi against Donnie Garrett, Ulysses Sandoval versus Mark Paglia, and Ken Roberts taking on Jeremy Jeffries. The winners of those respective rounds will go on to face either Michael Norman, Tim Nofsker, Kelly Causey, Craig Hagley, who currently are on a bye this week after being eliminated in their respective matchups last week. So a lot to still keep track of. That's going to run all the way to the end of the season. But right now, we're making the run towards the start of the playoffs, the end of the regular season. 3 races left to go. And tonight, race number 8 is green at Talladega.
Brian Schilling got a really good start right there. Was able to clear Denny Carroll and move up in front of him before the exit of turns 1 and 2.
And normally,
Usually,
yeah, I think you were just about to bring up the point I was going to bring up.
yes, go ahead.
Yeah, normally we end up seeing drivers just barely get clear off a turn 2 and make the move up to that middle line. So Schilling was not waiting around.
Yeah, both him and Denny Carroll got a good start right there. Didn't really have anybody behind them, and Schilling was able to get the advantage. But now Denny Carroll jumping to the inside here, might get a push here from Javier Negron in the 40. And they're going to be side by side coming to the line to complete lap number 1.
The last couple of weeks have been really good for Denny Carroll, as you documented. Well, Schilling now getting shuffled into the middle in the sucker hole, going to start going backwards. Kelly Causey might pick him up there in that new livery, the U.S. Army sponsorship on his 00. But remember Denny, when he went to victory lane, he was out of the top 20 in the point standings. Fast forward about 3 weeks to tonight, and he is 8th in the point standings. Currently about 25 points to the good ahead of the 16th in the standings cut line. So that's some really good consistency out of that car. As a matter of fact, we ended up seeing him pick up a championship last weekend in the All-Star Racing Premier Talladega Superspeedway Series, another series where he had been very consistent, and caution is out for the first time tonight before we complete lap number 2.
Good to see Tom Dixon out there in the 45 of the Batmobile.
See Michael Norman back here.
After that joke I made last week about Norman and Weston, the Flat Out Racing Network and Tarnation TV co-hosts, Weston did not qualify for the race tonight. He was here, but he didn't make it in. He's not within the top 30, so he had to fight for the spot and didn't get it.
Yeah, he was one of 3 DNQs, I believe, tonight, along with Cy Jones and Chris Elliott.
Looks like there's a stack up here on that inside line. Something happened. Looks like the 931 got into the 55, and Michael Norman right behind them just gets the worst end of this. But Michael said he didn't have any damage, so.
Yeah, it's hard to tell if Ken got the apron or not, but definitely the 931 carried a lot more speed into the corner than Ken did. Little bumper grab, and that, of course, slowed the 931. Michael Norman goes for a spin. Little contact with the right front of his Ford.
It's been a rough couple of weeks for Michael. Got off to a great start to this season. I think he was up there. I think he was as high as 3rd in points, but last few weeks just had a lot of bad luck. Was hoping to avoid that tonight. Didn't get the best qualifying draw, and was involved in an early incident here.
Yeah, 17th in points coming into tonight is Michael, but very much still in the conversation to move back up into the top 16. He is only -1 to that 16th in the standings cut line, which is currently occupied by the 22 of Greg Palmer. A pretty split strategy here amongst the field, about half staying out, half coming to pit road. If we were to go green to the finish, I think everybody would still have to make 3 trips onto pit lane. I think we'd be about 2 to 3 laps short of those pitting now being able to make it on 2 stops. So some drivers electing to come down, take on maybe a lap and a half, 2 laps more fuel on board their machines. Other drivers like Dennis McCarthy electing the track position here for the upcoming restart.
Lap number 4, we're already seeing some strategy come into play here.
And it was a complete split strategy. 20 drivers stayed out, 20 drivers came to pit road. So literally split down the middle in
Half
terms
the
of
field.
those that decided to stay out and those that decided not to. Should get the 1 to green this time by. Of course, they've got the ability for the expedited yellows. I would be interested to see. I think maybe drivers that have already pit that are towards the tail end of the field might come down and top off. I would be surprised if drivers up here towards the front that already stayed out the first lap of caution came to pit road the second lap of caution, but then again, you never know. I mean, that'd be an extra lap that you'd be able to stretch it. And we see Tom Dixon looks like shading out of line. Craig Hagley also going to come down pit road. There's Kelly Causey also. So we do have a few drivers inside the top 10, top 15 that elected to give up the track position on the second lap of caution for that little bit of extra fuel.
Don't see anybody else coming down pit road to top off, so. To your point, I really thought you'd see more drivers in the back come back down to top off, but I don't know. Looks like they're getting lined up here. Looks like we're going to go back to green next time by.
Greg Palmer was the first one off of pit road of those that came down on that first lap of caution. He's going to restart in the 16th position outside of row number 8. Doug Hewlick, Grant Wesley, some others behind him. Have to keep an eye on those drivers, see how quickly they can work their way up here to the front of the field. Going to have a little bit extra luxury of what they've got in the tank should this next run trend green. It'll be Dennis McCarthy, Denny Carroll, the front row, Randy Waugh,
Luigi,
and Javier Negron, your second row. Holster to Brian Schilling. We saw him kind of get shuffled into the middle, but he was able to maintain inside of the top 5. Going to restart 5th with John Godfrey, Tim Knopsker, Rodney Sullins, Chuck McClure, and Brian Lovell, the top 10. Chuck McClure, another driver coming into tonight. A lot of question marks around him. Obviously, as mentioned, the defending 2-time series champion. 15th in points coming into tonight, actually tied with Greg Palmer. 15th and 16th, that cut line position. It has been a very up and down season here for Chuck McClure. So far, he's only been able to accumulate 2 top 10s, no top 5s, and no victories. This is a driver who we saw win his way into the playoffs 2 seasons ago, point his way into the playoffs 1 season ago. So with 3 races left, I have to see if that 17 starts getting hot with postseason approaching.
you mentioned Denny Carroll is coming off a championship in the ASR series that we covered Saturday night, and well, there's a
Wrecking. Uh-oh.
As soon as I say that, here a big stack up or something on the restart, and
Caution lights are still off too, so they got to get oh, now the caution lights are back on, so we'll get the extra lap of pacing here.
And right back off again, so 1 more lap.
Yeah, I saw some drivers darting left and right. I think there might have been some stack ups. Somebody got into the back of somebody. It's like Craig Hagley maybe jumped out of line there, almost getting into the back of Bernie Mobbs, and then drivers on the inside line seem to react as well, with Harris, Causey, Tom Dixon got run into the back of by Bob Seminara. Not sure if that was drivers trying to anticipate the upcoming restart or drivers just trying to close up the gaps that they had from mid-pack to the rear of the field.
it's quite the bizarre incident right there.
Didn't look like any heavy contact for any of the drivers involved. Everybody should still be good and up to speed, but it does add the extra lap of pacing here, which now makes things kind of interesting for those drivers that did come down the second lap of caution, because I guarantee you, whether they pitted or not, everybody spent this caution period clutching to be able to save some precious fuel, and we're going to now be going back green at the completion of lap number 6, which would get us to a 2-stop race if drivers had just left pit road now. So if you saved enough to kind of equalize hitting the previous lap, some drivers might be able to look at this race as a 2-stop race. That is provided that the thing goes green to the checkers.
Well, we've seen races like that this season where we've only had, 1, maybe 2 cautions at most. So yeah, there's a good possibility of that happening. Point I was trying to make before that incident, though, you mentioned Denny Carroll coming off the championship in the ASR series that we showed you on FRN Saturday night. You talk about Chuck McClure, he actually went to victory lane in that race, so trying to carry some momentum over here into this series here tonight.
Yeah, 3-time winner that season at ASR.
Yeah,
Came up
thanks for
just shy of winning the championship, though.
thanks for covering us on Saturday. Yeah, I know we always work together, so that was cool. I know they wanted their championship race covered, and we weren't able to do it. I had my brother come in from out of town, so I was like, I let them know a couple weeks in advance to see if they could get it covered. So, flat out racing to the rescue.
Absolutely. Hope you had a great time with your brother.
Yeah, it was good. Went downtown. Friends of ours were, in a rock band. And so we went down and had some pints and listened to some loud music, and that was cool.
See Denny
Merchant
Carroll's
Tap House.
Merchant Tap House.
It's called the Merchant Tap House. Just an old bar downtown. Just cool little spot. I'm almost too tall to fit in the place. That's how old it is. All these old pubs.
It's always fun getting out, hearing some live music. Did that a couple of weeks ago, back-to-back nights. So it's always
Nice.
fun to do.
Yeah, there's some great bands, man. Like, these guys are so tight. They've always been great. And no cover. Just buy beer when you get there.
We saw Denny Carroll and Randy Waugh
Luigi.
jump up to that outside line. Now they got themselves clear of John Godfrey, moved down to the inside of the racetrack. Rodney Sullins has done the same in the 4th position. Dennis McCarthy, who was our leader, coming back to the restart, slotted in the 5th spot. Javier Negron's been moved up to that middle line with Brian and Greg Lovell. You see that 3rd line up there as well. A bunch of those drivers that came to pit road under that yellow flag trying to make up ground that they would have lost with pitting. Pat Karski leading that outside line with Greg Palmer. Grant Wesley's up there. Mark Paglia, Doug Hewlick is about, I was going to say a half dozen, but I think they've actually gained even more numbers up there. About 7, 8, 9 drivers in that 3rd groove.
See Javier Negron. I thought he... Can't tell if he's wanting to get into that outside line or lead that middle line right there. Now Brian Schilling jumps up in front of him in that middle line. Ryan Schilling, our pole setter, trying to get back up there where he started.
Whoa. I just focused on... Oh, Negron went from 6th to 30th to 8th. Does that make sense? That's what my position said for him.
Yep, I've seen NR do that before.
Yikes, I was like, 30th? Uh-oh. We got that glitch again at the start line, but yeah, it fixed itself. He only lost a couple spots.
Got a couple of drivers that have already lost the draft. Ways behind this lead group is the 45 of Tom Dixon. Even further back behind him is the 33 of Graham McDonald.
Not sure what happened to the 33. We saw the 45 of Tom Dixon. He was involved in that stack up as they were coming to the restart here under that caution. And
Whoa!
7-Eleven car way down to the way down on the apron right there. I don't know if Randy Waugh forced him down there or not, but man, that was close.
Godfrey showed the nose. Not sure he was quite there. And when the 21 moved down, Godfrey had almost all 4 tires down on the apron. 2 tires on the apron there after a bump from Rodney Sullins. Drivers hanging on that inside line.
This is only at the very front of the field. I mean, not a...
What's the old adage? If they pave it, they will use it. Well, you're not supposed to go down there. That's what the yellow line is for. But they didn't advance their position, so it's all good.
We'll hear 3 wide for the race lead. Brian Schilling leading that far groove up there with Javier Negron. Looks like Dennis McCarthy has a slight advantage in the middle. He's getting pushed by Greg Palmer.
Of course, we mentioned Greg coming into this race, the cut line driver, 16th in points. Driver who would even take the green flag to kick off the season. He was overseas, but made up points, has himself currently in a points playing chase position. Right now, second car in that middle line. Grant Wesley right behind him. Grant's been in just about every groove over the course of these last 5 laps ever since the restart, now in that middle line. And we are dead even across the start-finish line, 3 wide about... Oh boy!
McCarthy up into
my.
Schilling, and that is...
my.
That's every single car on planet Earth.
That's the huge one. That's the huge one.
That's
the only
massive.
car I think that was ahead of that
No, a
that
couple
got
cars
through
upside down.
was the 21 of Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
And he hit
I
the
saw
wall,
it
too.
Saw a couple of cars get by right there. I think the 44 got through. I just heard Michael come over and whisper, said that he made it through. Man, that might be the biggest crash I've ever seen in this series.
I think so. Couldn't quite identify the car that was upside down that had to teleport. It might have been Greg Lovell. I could be incorrect. Robert Spring, Dennis McCarthy, a lot of damage on those race cars.
This was a lot of damaged race cars, period. I mean, man, this could really... There's going to be a lot of cars out there off the pace. This really just changed the whole complexion of this race.
Also to Brian Schilling. Just about every side of that race car's got damage. Left, right, rear, maybe no damage on the front end of that race car, but it is definitely shrunken in terms of its dimensions. And this started right up at the front, and it started in the corner. 2 of the toughest areas to have a wreck happen because everybody back through the field, especially with them gridlocked. I mean, what were we talking about? 11 rows, I think, of 3 wide. Where do you go?
Yeah. It's been getting kind of dicey the last couple of laps leading up to this, so I can't say I'm all that surprised that this happened. And I just had a request from Michael to ride on board with him. I guess he had quite the view.
Roger
that. I
that.
saw upside down that I wasn't able to identify before he teleported back to pit road was Javier Negron. We had Kelly Causey up and over. Robert Spring went up and over. Bobby Farrell went up on his right side, but he never completely went around. And as Javier slid back down the banking, he kind of grabbed on to Jeffrey Elliott's car. That's the car that we saw flying through the air. Almost kind of got, I don't know, suplexed by Javier's Toyota.
Saw the 92 go upside down for a brief time there as well. So I'm counting at least 3 cars that left the ground for a time or two. Shocked there wasn't more.
Bunch of drivers sustaining heavy damage. There are also a lot of drivers that got through relatively unscathed. Seen drivers with very light contact towards the rear of the field, like Ken Roberts, Richard Martin, Chuck McClure. They might be okay. John Godfrey looked like he went for a harmless spin up there towards the front. So going to have to kind of wait and see once we have the restart and drivers get up to speed who's got damage that's going to take them out of the running of this race and who may have dodged a massive bullet.
I think that started with
wreck.
the 024 and the 711. I think they made some contact, and that's what initiated the whole thing.
I'll tell you another driver that did a great job getting through. 26 of Billy Elliser. You talk about being in the middle of the storm. I don't know how this car got through with as little contact as it did.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that looks amazing on a replay.
I mean, a little tap maybe to the driver's side door, a little tap to the right rear
in
quarter
the middle
panel.
of it.
He never spun out, kept it pointed straight.
Let's check out the 30's vantage point. He said he had an incredible view getting through this.
Look at the 26. That is unbelievable. He was in the eye of the storm, literally in the eye of the storm. We're going to go on the 30 right now. That view on the 26 of Billy, he got bumped a little bit. But, man, there was cars rolling over him. That was crazy.
In positioning alone, Billy Elliser is wrecked. That car just
Oh,
that car just
yeah.
wrecked. That's all.
Saw the 74 get upside down, too. The Robert Spring right there in that Terry Labonte throwback. And, yeah, Mike, nice job getting through that.
Yeah, Norman's at the back, so he has the ability to brake a little bit too, where Elliser just had to keep driving. Great heads up play by the 30. Yeah, he
Driving
was
and
able
praying.
to check up
That's
and
the
park
only
it.
two things he could do right there.
I thought I was watching a scene out of Days of Thunder right there, watching the 30 try to get through that wreck.
Yeah, he just
Man.
parked it. He pulled over and parked it, waited for the dust to settle, and away he goes. That was a
Kind of
good
reminds
move.
me of it was a Daytona race. I can't remember what year when they wrecked over. I believe it was in turn 3, and Dale Jr. just parked it on the apron, waited for everything to settle out, and then just drove through.
Might have been 2014, the July race, I think, where everybody just we're probably dialing back coin the phrase. That was the huge one at Daytona.
We had the huge one at Talladega right there. I think
I'm really-
maybe 3 or 4 drivers were able to be ahead or just snake through. Everybody else got bits and pieces, some worse than others.
I'm really curious to see how many damaged cars we're going to have off the pace here after that wreck.
Now, right now, we know 3 drivers are done for the night at this point. Pat McCarskey, Jeffrey Elliott, Javier Negron. See the 74 of Robert Spring staying out with a lot of damage on his race car. I can only assume that either he knows that car is not going to be up to speed the rest of the night, or he may be parking it here this next lap, but staying out, getting himself at least a lap-led bonus point here before the extensive repairs that are going to have to take place on pit lane. And I think for Robert Spring, more than anything, I think with the top 30 in points guaranteed every week of being locked into the field, Robert came into this race 29th in the standings. So this might be a strategy call to stay in the top 30 in points as much as anything.
Again, we have to remember to thank our sponsor, even though they are anonymous. So whoever you are, thank you very much for sponsoring Season 68 in its entirety to bring Flat Out Racing Network and Tarnation TV together in perfect harmony.
Saw last week a massive wreck on the final lap. Be a major decider into who was going to finish where. Less than 20 laps into this race. Decisive wreck here that very well could play into who's still going to be in the conversation by the time we get around to the checkered flag at the end of this one. Lights out in the pace car, so we're going to go back green just a little south of where these drivers would have pitted for the first time had we been green from the start of this race. So almost kind of back on the same strategy as we would have been had we run a complete green flag 66 lap race. So from this point, it will be a 2-stop race for these drivers. As Denny Carroll, Joe DeSpirito going to be the front row. These were drivers that were able to be just up towards the start of that wreck, be in the right positioning to make their way through. Brian Lovell, Grant Wesley, the second row. Michael Norman, who we saw make his way through the wreck, now in the 5th position, with Tim Knopsker to his outside in 6th. Billy Elliser, who had that incredible positioning to get through the wreck, will be 7th. Mark Paglia in 8th. Jeff Crivello, Ken Roberts are going to complete your top 10. We've had multiple drivers on pit road multiple times during the course of this yellow flag, including Jeremy Jeffries, Greg Palmer, Craig Hagley, Sean Turner, Doug Hewlick, Tom Dixon, Graham McDonald, Mike Mangialardi, Bernie Mobb. So you mentioned, Kyle, it'll be interesting to see who's up to speed. Those will certainly be some of the drivers to keep an eye out for. Lengthy stops on pit road, getting damaged, repaired, hoping that they're going to, in some capacity, be up to speed, still be able to remain competitive, or hope that this continues to be a race of attrition, so that way they have more drivers to race with and can maybe vulture some more points.
Curious to see if that wreck is going to kind of change the way everybody's been racing. Is it going to, scare some guys into making moves, or are they just going to go back to what we were seeing before that? We shall see.
Yeah, we see that a lot, right? Where we end up having a big wreck and then drivers kind of settle into a groove kind of scares them back to reality. But then other times we fully expect it, and then we turn around and they're 3 wide again. So we'll see if these drivers mid-pack, if any of them jump up to formulate that third line, as middle groove is the way to go, at least down the back straightaway. DeSpirito, with help from Wesley, clear to the top position. Driver that came into this race second in points, lost the points lead to Josh Metallic last week after he suffered, I believe it was a 20th place finish, and will look to take that points lead back with Metallic not in the field here tonight.
Some bonus point for the 24 there. You mentioned that's a tight battle at the top of the standing. 92 at Bobby Farrell.
Down the apron, little drifting down on the apron of 1 and 2, was able to gather it back up, comes back up onto the racetrack, and looks like he will stay in the draft. 1 week removed from that podium finish, his first top 5 on the season, and had a heck of a save there after some stack up and a little assistance from the 4 of Brian Schilling.
It's not the first time we've seen a stack up tonight either. I don't know what's going on with that tonight, but they're all trying to get single file up front here. The first 8 or so cars, single file for side-by-side battle. We see the 44, Brian Lovell, was side-by-side with Ulysses Sandoval, but Sandoval's able to get away from him.
Tim Anderson down that inside line behind the Tide ride. Billy Elliser, Chuck McClure as well. Hard to tell. 21 of Randy Waugh, I would have thought being in the draft of the 096 would have drafted right up to him, but it's taken him a little bit of time. I'm almost wondering if the 21 car's got a little bit of damage here. Maybe not being able to get what we call the suck up here. Get that tailwind off the back of the trailing car.
We saw the 21 smack the wall as he got by that wreck. I think the car got up into him and the pit and go a little bit. So I don't know if that slowed him down any or not, gave him damage, but
yeah, maybe a little aero damage.
It is funny how you want to be in front of, be up front as much as possible just to be in front of a possible accident that's going to happen. But when it literally starts in row 1,
yeah,
it involved everybody on the track, it's like, yikes.
Yeah, the one thing about super speedway racing, there are areas in the field where you are safer, but you're never safe. Doesn't matter where you are. Front of the field, back of the field, you never know when the wreck's going to happen, and in this case, where the big one's going to happen. Like Robert Spring, we saw him with a lot of damage on his car. He was one of those that went up and over in that wreck, has lost the draft. Sean Turner, I saw him a couple of laps go out of turn 2, go up and actually get the outside wall, and he's now back there with the 74, maybe trying to help keep him as up to speed as possible. Several other drivers towards the tail end here. Bobby Farrell is tucked in line behind the car that gave him that little bump through 1 and 2. Brian Schilling, Bernie Mobbs back here as well. We know these drivers all were caught up in the incident. Back end of the 4 missing. All trying to kind of work together to stay up here in this lead pack, which is very quickly turning into a single file formation. And if you are damaged and off the pace, that's the last thing you want to see. Because if they are double wide, 3 wide, they're slowing each other down. That gives you the chance to be able to stay in touch with them. When they single file out, they are producing a lot more straight line speed than you are with a damaged machine, especially if you got aero damage. So they want to see double and 3 wide ahead of them to keep their chances alive.
3 drivers unfortunately forced to retire. Javier Negron, Jeffrey Elliott, Pat McCarskey. Greg Palmer, on the other hand, setting a lap record, so far anyway, 201.269 mile per hour, which is a 47.5.
Two of those drivers that you mentioned, Elliott and McCarskey, had to race their way into the field here tonight on speed. Not in the top 30 in points. Javier Negron was 23rd in the point standings coming into tonight. And I don't believe he had that big of a cushion over 30th either, only 13 points. So the DNF dead last this evening could find him, if not near the cut line, maybe below the cut line. He may have to race his way into the field next week, depending on where everybody else around him in points ends up finishing this evening.
Yeah, talking to Rod Weston about racing here. You know, that 30th being that line, you know, he was in the top 30 for a couple races, then be out and have to race his way in, and then today he didn't make it. That's a good guarantee, though, because, you know, everybody who's consistently here every week, the top 30 are locked in, and then they give those last 10 spots.
And that's the thing, right? It just shows how drivers this season have had a real difficulty in establishing any sense of consistency. It's been up and down for everybody, whether you're up at the top, middle, bottom of the point standings, fighting for one of those top 30 spots. The only driver coming into this race that has 5 top 5s in the previous 7 races is not in the field tonight, that being Josh Metallic. You got a few drivers, Grant Wesley, Tim Nofsker, Mark Paglia, who have netted 4 top 10s in these first 7 races, but most everybody else have 3, 2, 1, or 0 top 10s to start off the season. So we're talking less than half finishes inside of the top 10 for probably about 90% of the field. That normally we used to have storylines of drivers finishing top 10 every single race of the regular season. Brian Schilling was a driver that did that many seasons ago, but there's nobody that's able to be looked at least right now, as a clear favorite on consistency for when the playoffs roll around. And let's not forget, this is an entirely new playoff system this season. 5 races, and there's no rounds. There's no eliminations. It's whoever compiles the most points during the course of those 5 chase races. So if drivers are having difficulty establishing consistency here in the regular season, which is 10 races long, it's going to be even tougher with only half that amount of races in the playoffs.
It's a system that's definitely going to reward consistency, so that's definitely going to be in the back of everybody's mind. And it's funny you mentioned the 3 drivers that are come close to that stat of, you know, top 10 finishes, running 2nd, 3rd, and 4th right now.
I find too that most, like you said, most seasons you kind of have those, you know, 10, 11, 15 guys who sort of stay at the top the whole time. But this season, there's been a lot of leapfrog going on where, like, you see guys gaining 9, 10 spots. You also see guys losing 9 or 10 spots every week. So it's still super tight on points, but there's also tons of movement on those season standings as well because of it seems everybody's so locked in season 68.
Yeah.
It really is anybody's race.
It's like you say, it's almost like we are at the first race of the season or the second race of the season when the points are super close. You're right. We're seeing these massive leaps. We're seeing these massive drops in points. I mean, case in point, last week we ended up seeing Ronnie Sullins go to victory lane. He moved up 4 positions, but Jeremy Jeffries ended up moving up 7 spots. We had multiple drivers that dropped 9 spots in the standings. I mean, we normally don't see that large of a change in points positioning this late in a season, but the points have just been so super close that execution every single race has been crucial, because one misstep, one bad race, and you can find yourself in an unenviable position going into the next week.
Because I found that with my notes, like, Jeffries gained 7 spots after last week's finish to put him in 12th overall. Metallic gained 2 spots to put him in the lead, but then he doesn't show up today. And he's also part of the bracket. So that whole thing's up for grabs too, right? It's very cool. I love it. Yeah, well, he was in the bracket with Denny Carroll, so that's an easy win for Denny Carroll. For those of you wondering, I got that baked into the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. That's what that is. Lovell versus Despirito, and Carroll versus Metallic.
And both Lovell and Despirito are still running, still up to speed. Despirito leading. Greg Lovell is the third car in that outside line, which has quickly now merged back into the inside line and left Chuck McClure all by his lonesome. Greg unofficially in the 12th position.
We are closing in toward the end of the stage here. Lap 33, they'll give out points to the top 10 finishers. We went back to green at lap, 16 or 17?
I think it was 17's completion.
So yeah, they're going to be, some of these guys might be kind of close on fuel here to try to make it to the end of the stage. As Cody Lamas now goes to the inside, he got help from Michael Norman, Denny Carroll, Ulysses Sandoval. See if they can make up some ground on that inside line.
Yeah, these drivers, as you say, realizing that halfway point of the race is fast approaching. We'll be 2 laps away from it when they cross the stripe this time by, so trying to maybe get those extra positions, those extra points. Cody Lamas hit with a post-race EOL for the last lap wreck through the tri-oval. He was in line to finish inside of the top 10. The EOL has him 22nd in points, so he's looking to gain a lot of those points back here.
Oh,
Big
boy.
shoving down the back straightaway. Grant tried to block it, but too big a head of steam for the 48.
Yeah, Cody got a good push there from Norman, and I don't think Grant was aware that he was as far as he was to the quarter panel right there.
I was focused on Keith Bynum there in the 63, just watching him because he's right on that bubble. He's in 10th spot right now as we get to that midway stage bonus. Top 10 only getting bonus points.
Next time by, and you got some drivers that have been shuffled up there to the top side by themselves. Wesley, Nofsker, Paglia. I'm not sure they're going to fall out of the top 10. They're definitely not going to be in the top 5, it doesn't look like, as everybody is migrated down to that yellow line.
Greg Lovell being shown in 10th there.
Joe DeSpirits are looking to win this stage. That'll help his cause big time. He's trying to battle for the overall points lead.
It'll be his second stage victory of the season for driver 24.
And there it is.
The line. 10 valuable points headed his way. Driver second in the points. Cody Lamas, Michael Norman, Denny Carroll are going to be at least the top 4. Going to wait for scoring to come in here because it was side by side for 5th, 7th, and 9th. Crossing the line there. Looks like Sandoval got the 5th spot. Wesley 6th. Nofsker, Bynum, Paglia, Greg Lovell, your top 10.
According to my overlay, too, the 96 and the 88 are a 0.27, so I can't see the third number, but that was pretty close.
A 270 to a 271. So
Yikes.
1,000.
And here comes Denny Carroll down pit road. Yeah, these guys are close on fuel. See the 21, I believe that's the 43. And I think that's the 931 behind him.
Bobby Farrell further back, along with Billy Ellis, are also hitting pit road. So these drivers had just enough fuel to be able to get to the halfway stage. Greg Palmer, Kelly Causey coming in. We're starting to see more and more of the drivers that got damaged from that big wreck over in turns 1 and 2 that have lost the draft. Mike Mangialardi added into that group as well as he heads to pit lane. I would assume Despirito's pitting this time because he's been the lead car for most of this run.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a good number of them come down pit road. There comes Despirito, Norman,
Whoa!
Nofsker.
I don't know if there was
Wesley.
contact between Nofsker and Wesley or if Nofsker just had a full head of steam coming into pit lane.
Wow. Tom, he held on to it. Tom Dixon might get a speeding penalty for that one, but
Yeah, I'm
man,
wondering about
he held on to it.
Nofsker as well. I mean, that was a lot of speed he carried into the entry of pit lane.
Cody Lamas, Ulysses Sandoval stay out.
Maybe a bonus point for the 48.
Green flag pit stop's always super important.
John Godfrey, Tim Anderson, Craig Hagley, Rodney Sullins, Graham McDonald all stayed out the extra lap as well, and that group of 7 will all hit pit lane together. Godfrey locks them up, and he's around. John probably thinking, I extended this pit road. Why isn't it being nice to me?
He built it. Maybe he'll make it wider.
Nofsker, we saw have that really aggressive entry onto pit lane. I almost wondered if he might have been speeding.
Doesn't look like it.
Well, he's low
He's
on the
coming
racetrack
down
here.
low
is he?
here, and
Yep, I think he might be coming down to certain penalty. No, he just stayed low, realizing that trio of cars were faster than him. Guess he'll tuck in line. So, well, I'll tell you what, if he did manage to get that thing woed down to the 55-mile-per-hour pit road speed, that might have been one of the most aggressive entries onto pit lane I've seen this entire season.
that is like pit road entry perfection right there, if that is the case.
And how many times do we say after a cycle green flag pit stops, driver 88 to the lead, Grant Wesley, gonna cycle around in the top position with Joe DeSpirito, Michael Norman, Tim Nofsker, Mark Paglia. Looks like that's going to be the top
flag,
5.
Paglia, and Nofsker.
So
Yep, there it is.
Came in a little late for us, but yep, 088, 28, both coming to pit road together. 2 drivers inside the top 5 in the point standings as well. 4th for Nofsker, 5th for Paglia, 2 of our 7 former winners on the season.
Yeah, but you talk about somebody who's mastered the art of hot pitting, that would be Grant Wesley, like you mentioned. How many times do we see after a green flag pit stop, Grant Wesley, the race leader, after coming in not leading beforehand.
And he does it from just about every spot on pit road. Like, there's nothing consistent in terms of him always having a really good pit stall up towards the exit of pit lane. Sometimes it's at the front, sometimes at the back. Tonight, he ended up having pit stall number 25 right in the middle of pit road. Doesn't matter where it's positioned. He always seems to be able to maximize entry, pit road execution in the stall, and then maximize exit. Looks like we have 17 lead lap cars in this group now. Back to the 82 of Craig Hagley. Got a couple of lap cars intermingled with this pack. Sean Turner in the 136 is the first driver 1 lap down. Just a little ways behind this group is the 029 of Mike Mangialardi, who is the second driver 1 lap down. They would be the free pass cars should we get a yellow. A couple of drivers trying to make something happen here on the inside line. Jeremy Jeffries and that Michael Waltrip throwback moving low, trying to find some takers, and nobody's biting.
1 is the loneliest number, and on the inside right now with nobody.
Jeremy, who we mentioned was a big mover last week, up 7 positions in the standings from 19th to 12th. Outside the cut line and now inside the cut line. Trying to move his way forward here. Whoa, big
Wow.
run. My goodness.
I was on roof cam for that. Holy moly.
And a big push from Ulysses Sandoval and Cody Lamas down the back straightaway. And he's probably thinking, guys, we had him. We had 5-mile-per-hour advantage over everybody. Where'd you go?
I can tell that Rodney Sullins has painted the 01 for Jeffries, as the steering wheel is highly obnoxious, but very cool.
I've heard steering wheels described in many ways. Obnoxious is not one of them.
Rodney, in the last season or 2, has been really going to town on custom wheel textures. And yeah, Jeffries has got stars, and it's wrapped in gold and blue.
I'm curious if Rodney painted the 00 car, that new U.S. Army paint scheme there for Kelly Causey. That's a good looking scheme.
Let me check. I can get right in there and see if there's a sullen stamp of approval. Nope.
See Jeremy Jeffries making another move to the inside. Folks, if you ever wonder what a driver does when they're bored, this is what they do.
Who's that?
Jeremy Jeffries.
I don't know how one can be bored going 200 miles per hour at Talladega, but
Well,
and
I raced with these guys in a Daytona race, and I was riding behind, I was a couple cars behind Dante Ricky, and we were kind of the second group, but we were only a few car lengths behind the first group. And we were all just riding, and all of a sudden Dante ends up making a move to the inside, bypasses 2 cars, tucks up back in line. I said, wow, that was a heck of a move, Dante. Did you mean to do that? He said, no, I was just bored.
wow.
Just out there, just changing lanes just because it's fun.
I have to say, I'm impressed with Jeremy Jeffries. On the inside with no help, you would think he would fall right to the back, but he's sticking with these guys and moving up there, side by side with all these drivers. You would think there's a side draft in this game, but there isn't. But Jeremy doing an impressive job on the bottom all by himself.
I'm almost wondering if he's getting these massive runs because the drivers in this pack are all half throttling, maybe trying to save some fuel to get to a particular window, and he's taking advantage of that on the entry to the corner, keeping his pedal planted to the floor.
You can see from the camera angle here, he's doing it all with, he's got a milkshake in one hand. He's just out there chilling. Drinking a milkshake, driving a car.
I have a hard time doing that, going 55 miles per hour. I can imagine what that's like.
I have a hard time doing that sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
I love those NASCAR commercials whenever they hire guys to do pizza or whatever, they get them to do whatever. But then they always show up in their full gear and everything. Any sport commercial really is always pretty funny.
Yes, because athletes are always in uniform 24/7, no matter what.
Apparently, yeah. According to the media. Hockey player shows up at the barbecue with skates on and full gear. Grant Wesley's got the lead, and I missed it. Despirito's got 17 laps led. Wesley now has 7.
Yeah, right now, these drivers projected can make it about maybe another 10 laps. Around lap 55 is about the furthest they can go. I think we're probably going to see most drivers pit around lap 53. That will be their final pit stop of this race. Of course, for Grant Wesley, he's at the disadvantage Joe DeSpirito was during the first run prior to the pit stop cycle. Being that lead car, using up more fuel, does not have the benefit of that, and I think we're under yellow.
Yeah, there's a spin in turn 3, I believe it was. Tim Anderson off the pace there. That's probably the one that spun. If I had
It's like the only car. And if I were to wager a guess, I would put my money on Stack Up.
No, he was leading. He was leading the pack
second.
there.
Oh, just
from 18th, he's leading that pack.
That was interesting. It looked like the 8 got into the 36, and that sent him into the 33.
Yeah, kind of bumper grabbed Crivello a little bit there, did Glenn.
Yeah, Roberts put. Oh, I see. Yeah, what you?
They chain
low
bumped.
line. Yeah.
Yep.
Roberts was last right onto the 33. Was giving him a great push.
I think McCarthy may have got into the back of Roberts right there. And
Yep. And the bumpers were not lined up for Harris and Crivello with that shove from the 024. Both left side tires up off the ground for the Bass Pro Shop Chevrolet, but fortunately for him, it didn't go completely over. He didn't hit anything. So they'll come down, they'll change those tires, and he should be still good to go. But this is going to save a lot of those drivers that would have been separated from the lead pack after the pit stop cycle. That's the good news. Bad news is this caution does not get us to the end of this race. These drivers right now, with those that are pitting, are going to find themselves 2 to 3 laps short of the finish.
Cool.
like Sean Turner, Greg Palmer. Palmer was able to get around Mike Mangialardi, so they are going to be the two lucky dog drivers here. Part of this yellow, we'll have 33 drivers back on the lead lap when all is said and done. A couple drivers staying out, I believe, that are taking responsibility for the incident, McCarthy and Glenn Harris, as Tim Nofsker looks like he won the battle off of pit road. Or no, he's actually staying out an extra lap here. This is a big break for him and Mark Paglia because they both managed to stay on the lead lap after they had to serve the pass-throughs.
Oh, did they not even lose a lap?
No. Nope, they managed to pit, come out together, and stayed on the lead lap. So that caution bailed them out.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. Getting black flags together was kind of a bonus. They both go in at the same time. Then you've got that drafting help. Not the optimal draft, but you still got an extra probably 10 mile an hour running with another car than you would by yourself.
So Joe DeSpirito was actually the winner off of pit road of the drivers that came to pit lane. Sandoval Wesley came out behind him along with like Michael Norman, Greg Lovell. I think we're probably going to see Tim Nofsker pit this time, and this could be all by design for the 088. Again, when we go back green, I think we're going to go back right on 18 to go, which is the median number of laps that these drivers can normally go on a full tank of fuel.
So you're thinking maybe I mean, the way these guys save fuel though, man, like the way that they clutch, sometimes it's mind-boggling how they can make it, but they can make it. I just wonder.
Oh, the lights are still on the pace car.
Right.
And that is a welcome sight for these drivers because that's another lap that they'll be able to run under pacing to be able to save more. So if we had the lights out this time by, I would have said it would have been super close. We might have had a scenario similar to a few weeks ago where we saw Chuck McClure run out of fuel from the front of the field. Now, with having this extra lap, we might be good to make it. The one thing that I'm not sure I want to do during the course of this run is be the leader, because you're going to get the worst fuel mileage. If it's close as I think it is, most everybody with the benefit of draft should be able to make it the rest of the way. If you don't have the draft, if you're that lead car, I don't know if you actually are going to be able to get to the end of the race or not.
So do you think with lights staying on that we're going to see more pit stops right now?
I would. If you're towards the back of the pack here, I would say from maybe even from Jeremy Jeffries on back. If you're not in the top 10, I'd come back down, I would top off, make absolutely sure that I'm good to make it to the end.
Yeah. What about DeSpirito, like you're saying, leading the race? He might not, even if he is obviously clutching safe fuel under yellow. You know, you're up there in that front.
The problem with that is being the leader, there's no guarantee you're going to be able to get back up to the front again.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the track position now, and you want to maintain it. So I feel like DeSpirito, his situation, he's boxed in. He's got no choice. He's got to stay out. And he's just got to hope that he's saving enough fuel here under these pacing laps to be able to get to the conclusion, provided he leads the remainder of this race. All right, so we got nobody up there inside of the top 10, top 20 pitting.
Wow.
So this says to me that everybody is confident they can make it on fuel now. We got a couple of takers towards the latter portion of the field. I think most of these are drivers that are a lap down, Causey, Spring, Mangialardi. They might be even just doing a pass-through to make sure that they start at the tail end of the field. But the fact we had nobody come down pit road, this says to me that everyone is confident they've got the fuel to make it the rest of the way, or it's so close that they feel that they can half throttle during the course of this run and be able to make it under green flag conditions.
Greg Palmer and Turner being your lucky dogs.
Obviously, that big wreck that we had, you'd think that there had been a lot more cautions. Nope, this was only our third yellow flag of the evening. The other two incidents that we've had, solo car spins. That one big wreck has been really the difference maker in this race. Of course, that cycle of green flag pit stops as well, but now more than likely, based off of the language of these cars staying out, that's the last time that these drivers plan to be going to pit road outside of potential crash repair damage, as we're going to get the restart here with 17 laps to go. Still a long ways left in this race too. You'd think that we were setting up for a 5-lap shootout, a green-white checker. No, there's still a good chunk of this race still left to be run.
It's going to be interesting to see on this restart between Joe DeSpirito and Ulysses Sandoval. Who's going to want to lead this thing? I mean, if as close as they are on fuel, we all know when you're out front leading, you don't have the benefit of drafting behind anybody to save fuel. So I'm curious to see how this restart is going to go.
It's going to be interesting to watch Joe DeSpirito, Grant Wesley on this restart. They're kind of forced to work together once the green flag drops. Remember, those are two drivers trying to take advantage of the fact that Josh Metallic's not in the field here tonight and be the overall points that are going into next week. DeSpirito got the stage win. Wesley crossed the line in 6th. And those two were only separated by 1 point coming into tonight's 2nd and 3rd respectively in the standings.
DeSpirito going to be third of the lead.
Wesley appeared to be clear as well. Thought maybe they'd move up to the outside line, but they'll stay committed to the bottom, down the back straightaway. Greg Lovelace to Sandoval. They'll be side by side for 3rd.
Sandoval and Norman got a good start on the outside, but the 44 car did not, and I think that hurt the 30 and the 96 on that restart.
Field kind of split up just outside of the top 10. Some gaps from Sullins back to Breedlove, from Bynum back to Hewlett. Got a 3rd line potentially forming there. Mark Paglia up on that outside line along with Tim Nofsky. Remember, those two got saved by that yellow flag, and now they're trying to make up ground here. Another driver that caution benefited was John Godfrey. We saw him lock it up and loop it around on pit road entry. He remained on the tail end of the lead lap, back up in this group.
Sandoval getting a good run on that outside, getting a good push from Michael Norman. He's going to be side by side with Joe DeSpirito for the race lead now. A lot of momentum on that outside line right now.
Ulysses coming into this race 9th in the point standings. 3 finishes inside of the top 10. All 3 of those top 10s, top 5s for driver 096. And I believe he sniped that lap lead from Joe DeSpirito, not by much, but I think that was his first lap lead of the night. No, his 2nd lap lead of the night for Ulysses.
We got the lap at 0.05.
You asked that question, Kyle, between DeSpirito and Sandoval, who was going to want to be the lead car? Answer's both of them. They both really in their respective lanes here. Neither one are getting the benefit of draft.
We have a 3rd line forming here. It's like the 82 leading that one. Got the 38 behind him.
Pretty sure we saw Craig Hagley take a pretty good impact in that big wreck through 1 and 2. Appears like he's up to speed, though. Got some good cars behind him there, including the driver that brought out the most recent yellow, that blue 33 of Tim Anderson. He's trying to make his way back forward, right behind Doug Hewlett, who's behind last week's winner, Rodney Sullins. We had, I think I said, 17 lead lap cars up in the lead group after the cycle of green flag pit stop. This caution, whoa, Hewlett
4 wide.
Nice save there in the
3.
middle of the pack. Now that caution now has us with 32 drivers up in this lead pack now.
Sandoval clear to the lead up front. See, Michael Norman got put in the middle. Now he's gonna get back to the bottom behind the 63 of Keith Bynum.
Jeremy Jeffries also was in the sucker hole, still there. Rodney Sullins jumps down to try and offer some assistance, but they're the only two. A lot of movement in that outside line there. Saw Denny Carroll kind of wash up the track, same for Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
Spirito to the outside. Ulysses got no help. Oh,
No
yes, he
help
does.
at all. Well,
Oh, no, he doesn't.
Doug McClure going to take it 3 wide. He's got no help down there either, so that's not going to help him or Ulysses, I would say, off of turn 2. They're both going to get freight trained down the back straightaway.
What a head of steam that 17 had to be able to leapfrog to 96, and then Ulysses tried to do the same thing, but it didn't work.
Well, I don't know. The way they're racing right now, we may not be done with cautions here tonight.
Yeah.
A lot of slicing and dicing just outside of the top 5, all the way back through the top 20. Drivers realizing these laps are ticking away. We're closing in on 10 laps to go here this evening. Just shows how things can change in the course of a lap. Previous time around, Ulysses was leading. He's now back battling in the 8th position with Jeff Crivello. Ryan Lovell just got shuffled out, going backwards in that outside line. Sandoval found a way in between Crivello and Denny Carroll. Now Jeremy Jeffries left without a dancing partner. Here comes Brian Schilling, Rodney Sullins up the inside. It looks like that 4-car Brian Schilling has got that back end damage still from that big wreck that we had. Started this race from the pole position. I think that car is slightly off the pace. I don't think he's able to really draft up to another car, but he is able to stay in the lead group if he has somebody pushing him. So I don't think he's necessarily going to be able to get to the race lead, but trying to salvage what he can here tonight is driver number 4, and still at least inside the top 15.
Yeah, the entire back bumper on that 4-car is gone, and we've seen that a couple of times this season where somebody's, the back end is completely gone, but they're able to stay up in the lead draft.
This is Sandoval, Denny Carroll trying to make some moves to the inside here. This is just in the latter portion of the top 10, around the 8th position. They can make forward progress. Some drivers up ahead of them might notice it and jump down in line in front of them, but right now only 3 drivers currently there. And trying to see if they can maybe tow up that second group on the inside line being led by Brian Schilling. If they can get more numbers down there, they might be able to make some forward progress. They just don't have enough drivers, enough cars down there to build momentum to combat the near dozen drivers to their right. But right now, looking at our top 10, only one of them has previously won a race this season. He's in the 2nd position, Grant Wesley. So the odds are definitely in favor right now of our streak continuing to 8 straight races with 8 different drivers going to victory lane. Got a couple candidates up here as well for potential first-time winners. 5th place there, the 63 of Keith Bynum. Michael Norman's been able to work his way back up. Currently in 7th, Jeff Crivello right behind him in 8th, Cody Lamas in 9th. So now we've seen a number of drivers, as you mentioned, Kyle, that have come into these races not necessarily in a favorable position in the point standings, find victory lane and take a massive leap from one week to the next. There's a lot of candidates up here to maybe do the same thing that drivers like Denny Carroll, Donnie Garrett, and last week Rodney Sullins have been able to do.
It's just funny how that's worked out. Take a look at a driver that's down in the standings, needs something good to happen, and they come out here and pull off a victory. And we've seen that 3 times already this season.
Long snake down the back straightaway there. At least the top 15 were all single file. This is Sandoval trying to do something back there around 17th place. Now he's going to tuck up in line. I think they're going to catch the 00 of Kelly Causey, who is off the pace. Damage from the previous massive wreck that we had. Brought out our second caution of the evening. Kelly was one of those drivers coming into tonight too that was in a wild card spot, 20th in points. Not sure if this is going to drop him out of the top 20, and that previous victory this season would not have him eligible for a playoff spot. Still 2 races to go after this to try and get up above that cut line, but certainly not an enviable position for the 00 in terms of where he's currently running, and more than likely is going to finish unless something happens here in these final 5 laps. Kelly's currently now 2 laps down in 37th.
Just saw Chuck McClure made a move to the inside. It looked like may have had a couple of cars go with him, but decided at the last minute not to, and Chuck really fell back there.
We saw Jeremy Jeffries back during that last green flag run, stalwartly trying to make something happen on the bottom. Doing the same thing here on this run, and he's got some help. John Godfrey, Ken Roberts, Denny Carroll down there with him. McClure Paglia up ahead. Now they're going to move to the inside. McClure looking for a spot on Crivello. That would be for 7th place. Laps are ticking down. This would be our proverbial point of no return, and I think we are rapidly approaching where if a caution were to come out, race would end under yellow. These drivers are realizing it, not wanting to wait too late to make these moves just in case it may be for the race victory. Norman moves low. Here comes Richard Martin. We're starting to see a lot more movement up at the front. That single file formation, it's gone.
Comes the 880 looking to the inside. Greg Lovell inside of Grant Wesley. This is going to be for the 2nd spot.
Spirito's going to stay up top there with Wesley. Opens up the door for Lovell to get to his left rear quarter panel. See if Lovell can get enough help on the bottom to get around the 24. It's going to be 3 laps to go this time by. A lot of movement there through the tri-oval.
My biggest concern for the 24 would be fuel. We've seen him lead most of this race ever since they went back to green, and we talked about how close they've been on fuel. And we saw him, I think he ran out of fuel. I think it was last week. He looked like he ran out of fuel in the last lap.
That's right.
When that big wreck happened. So hopefully it's not deja vu here for the 24 of Joe DeSpirito.
Well, he chose the right line, stayed in that middle groove. He's going to tow Wesley clear. Bynum trying to get clear into 3rd. You're DeSpirito, though. While you're also having the concern of fuel, you got to be concerned about the fact that there is a clear lane.
Oh, trouble!
Wreck in the back. That's going to be the caution that ends this race. We're racing back to the start-finish line. You saw DeSpirito immediately jump down to the bottom. Wesley's going to get to his outside. It's going to be close.
DeSpirito.
Give it to Wesley. No, correction, to DeSpirito.
Give it to somebody.
Give it to somebody.
Barely 0.01.
I think it was
Wow.
the 880 I think we saw the 880 go around there, and
Yeah. Greg Lovell, yep.
I think the first car I saw go around in the back, it looked like Ulysses Sandoval at first glance.
Yep. Not sure who else with him. It's like Bernie Mobbs.
Bernie.
Sean Turner's got some damage. Denny Carroll's parked on the inside of the racetrack. I'm almost wondering if maybe he was the driver that got the 880 through the tri-oval. Well, if DeSpirito was close on fuel, if he was sweating about that, he now knows that these caution laps to close out the race are going to get him home.
Greg Lovell retired. Ulysses retired. Why did Greg retire? That's a mistake.
I think Ulysses ran out of fuel.
It says that Greg's retired. The race isn't over yet. Did he think that was a checkered flag? He just got spun out at the line.
I'm not
30.
sure yet. Race was not over.
So
No.
a 44 and a 31 get together here to cause the initial caution. I don't know.
Ulysses did not run out of fuel. I thought that car was slowing, but it didn't.
I mean, like, the race, that flag ends the race, but the race isn't over?
Correct.
How do you say that? Like, it locks in the field, but you still have to finish the 66 laps. I wonder if Greg and Ulysses and Brian all made a mistake and just quit, thinking that the race was done.
Pulled a Mark Martin from 1994. He did that at Bristol in a book.
Yep.
Well, Ulysses,
Series race had the race won.
It's like, what are you doing on the pits, Mark? Wait, what? One more lap.
Ulysses took a big hit, but I'm pretty sure that car would have at least been able to continue under pacing.
Yeah.
It's like maybe he just decided to call it quits early. Greg Lovell, he got pretty extensive damage.
And that is what we suspected right there. Greg Lovell thought the race was over. So
Wow.
Oh, we have confirmation on that?
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because there was still, obviously, the race, we haven't run the 66 laps yet. He got spun right at the line, so he lost a couple of spots, but he was in the top 10, I think.
Crossed the line in 12th, it looks like, according to the
So
scoring.
he was probably in the top 10 when he got spun, lost a couple spots, but then retired thinking the race was over, I think. Yeesh,
And we've
that's
seen-
too bad.
And we've seen wrecks where drivers slide across the start finish line when the caution's waving, be able to get their spots back. So he would have been able to refire the car, go up and slot back into the 12th spot. Certainly
Right.
not where he was running at the time he got spun, but far sight better than where he's ultimately going to finish, which looks like
30th?
maybe 30th, but I think some of the lap cars might actually pass him on this lap here too. So he might actually
Right.
finish down around 35th, 36th.
37th, yeah.
Man, that's a very costly mistake right there. Had a decent finish lined up. That's what he thought there, but it's a slight misjudgment.
Oh, man.
Was 11th in points coming into this race. He wouldn't have moved on in the bracket challenge because the driver he was battling is going to cross the line right here and pick up the checkered flag. Joe DeSpirito. We go now 8 for 8 in different drivers going to victory lane this season.
Saw how close Grant Wesley and Joe DeSpirito were crossing the line right there on the last lap under caution. That's about what they were coming to get the caution flag, to settle the race right there.
Pretty much.
Joe DeSpirito, first win of the season. Been very consistent, knocking on the door of victory lane, and finally gets it done here tonight.
And DeSpirito, his best finish prior to this was a 3rd place. Closest he got to victory lane prior to tonight. And he will finally break through. As mentioned, the 8th different driver to go to victory lane this season, and undoubtedly is going to be the overall points leader going into next week with 2 races left to go here in the regular season. Wesley's going to finish in 2nd, and Keith Bynum. We had Bobby Farrell get his best finish of the season last week. Bynum will get his best finish of the season this week as he'll bring it home 3rd.
As Michael Norman joins us up here. Michael, a much needed run for you here tonight.
Yeah, I was scared. I'm not even gonna lie. No, seriously, when we were running single file, I mean, everyone was actually complaining about that. Single file running, they were like, oh man, it's got so-and-so laps to go. Why are we all just running single file? And I saw the inside coming, and that's why I was asking Ulysses and Kyle to kind of spot for me to see how many cars were on the outside, and then I pulled down low, and then the car behind me went high, and it was just luckily a couple cars in front of me pulled down low too. But that was a fun race to the finish there. Congrats to Joe. And we were all saying on that final pit stop when the caution came out, and we were wondering if we were all going to make it. I told Grant, Grant's because he was super quiet, and I was like, Grant's working on a curse to curse everyone's fuel tanks.
I laugh too because I talk about every single week these drivers, when we see them double wide, 3 wide, they were out there. This is just a normal Thursday night drive for them. Then we talk to you. I was scared.
I have to say, I'm impressed with Joe DeSpirito and his burnout right
Very
there,
cool.
This
going
is a
backwards.
Joe DeSpirito signature.
Absolutely.
It's been a while since we've seen those reverse burnouts.
He won the last race of last season. First time we've seen it since then, right there. Just maybe the most unique burnout style I've ever seen in this game.
I agree.
Yeah, we didn't see Joe as a part of the playoffs last season. It looks like the multi-time champion is back. Consistency as well as the victory here tonight. I would say, obviously, it's still too early, obviously, with what we've seen this entire season, but could certainly make a pretty convincing case for this victory, locking Joe DeSpirito into the playoffs with 2 races left to go.
I definitely had to pull a Cletus McFarland and wreck early. I wanted my 25 seconds of fame.
Had to get used to getting the car loose and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I got super lucky twice in this race, at least twice that I know of. When I got spun right there, I hit some stuff small, but I never got any damage, none. When I looked at my F9, it said it didn't even ask yes or no for damage. Then that stack up, and I hit pretty hard in that stack up before the restart, and I still didn't get any damage. And then I made the best decision in the world to just park my race car when the wreck happened, when that big wreck happened.
Well, 7th place finish tonight. You picked up 8 stage points in this race as well.
Oh, yeah, that's
so
right. I did finish
good.
Pretty high up, didn't I?
Yeah, it's a good points night for you here, as you're in that battle to.
It was it top
for the
16,
top 16,
or is it top 20 with the win, or top 16? I'm so confused.
Top
sometimes.
20 with a win or top 16 overall?
Okay, so if I don't feel like I'm going to win within the next couple of weeks, so I just need to stay in the top 16. So I get to hopefully get to start the playoffs in dead last and just hope and pray.
Let's see if we can dial up another driver that had a really good run here tonight. Well-needed run. This will be his first top 10, his first top 5, and his first podium of the season. Came into this race 38th in points. Let's dial up Keith Bynum. Hey, Keith, it's the guys up here in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do.
Wow, what a race for you here this evening. Kept the car clean, up in the conversation late in this one. A run that you really needed to have. Last couple of weeks, you've had to qualify your way in on speed. 38th in points coming into tonight, and you net your first top 10 of the season in a big, big way. Obviously, I think being a car back there in the latter half of the top 5, you would have liked to have seen the rest of this race go green, see if there was something you could do to maybe get around the 88 and the 24 to be parked in victory lane. But obviously, with the good run tonight, what does this do as far as taking a weight off of your shoulders? Because could very well put you up into the top 30 in points with how close that cut line seems to be, and obviously some good momentum for you as well.
Well, what you just said, that if it does put me in the top 30, it does take it off the weight off my back. But I have figured me out a little bit, and I've been racing this game since it come out. But I figured out a little bit on the qualifying ordeal. So last week I didn't get in through qualifying. I wasn't fast enough. But I want to also say, hey, Mother, I know you're watching, and I hope you enjoyed the race. And tonight I got banged up a little earlier in that wipeout wreck. My car got knocked all over the place, and but the hammer hit on my car long enough to finish getting the tires on, and it went out and everything was good. I had plenty of speed, and yes, I would have loved to seen it go green flag. See, maybe even could have won the race, but I'm happy with third. I'm so happy. I enjoyed the race. I kept, as you said, I kept the car competitive all night, and everybody worked with me that I was around. I didn't have nobody hanging me out, and I sure didn't hang nobody else out.
Obviously, as you mentioned, involved in that massive wreck that we had back there with less than 20 laps into the race. It was kind of, for us up here in the booth, a wait and see of who sustained what kind of damage, how competitive they were going to be. When that incident happened, it was at the front of the field. You guys were stacked up 3 wide, about 11, 12 rows deep. Obviously, it's all about positioning. Sometimes it's about luck. With how knotted together, how gridlocked you drivers were, was there anything as you behind the wheel that you were able to do to kind of try and maneuver your way through the wreck, or are you just kind of along for the ride and just hoping that the contact is minimal?
Well, start with in that particular wreck, the guys that were right in front of me, they got on through without getting hit. And I thought I was going to follow through. And then just that one car tapped me, and then I bumped up into the wall a little bit, and then another one tapped me, and I went into one of them spins, and that was the main damage. I got a little bit of enough for the hammer on me, about 3 seconds, 2 seconds or something, and needed tires. But yeah, I was just lucky, and it's a wonder that wasn't worse. I had the television going right next to the race here, and I seen y'all screenshot of that wreck, and it was just like, I told the guys on TeamSpeak, I said, Lord, 80% of the field is in that wreck. And that would make a great screenshot to throw up every now and then to say, this is mayhem.
Well, it was definitely, at least to our recent knowledge, the biggest wreck we have seen here in the Talladega Challenge Series. Just about I think we counted 3 or 4 drivers involved in that incident, but able to make your way through with minimal damage. You bring it home solidly on the podium here tonight. Some great momentum for you going forward the rest of this regular season into the playoffs, as well as you try and build yourself up there to inside the top 30 in the point standings. Keith, before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout outs.
Well, I own Hubcap Annie down in Austell, Georgia. I sell hubcaps, wheels, center caps, car accessories. We do have shipping available on everything we sell. And if you ever need something for your car OEM, just holler at me. I do it all the time. I just hit me on on Facebook or TeamSpeak. But anyway, other than that, again, my mama's 82, be 83 her birthday, and I just celebrate all the time that she loves to watch me race on this and on her telephone laying around in the room. And that's just, it brings joy to me and a smile on me when I make the race and get to let her get to watch me play the game.
Well, I'm sure she was pleased here tonight to see you make it through all the mayhem this evening, bring it home solidly on the podium. 3rd place here tonight at Talladega. Congratulations on a great run there, Keith, and hopefully this is a spearhead to some good momentum for you going forward.
And yes, sir, and thank you for the great broadcast y'all do. I mean, I enjoy watching them back over myself sometimes, and the crowds are getting bigger and bigger.
Absolutely. Well, glad to do it. That's Keith Bynum.
Good job,
Third place performance here tonight at Talladega Super Speedway. Congratulations once again on a solid race.
Thank you.
That was fun racing with you, man.
Yeah, it was. It was a blast. Thank you.
See if we can now get a hold of the 2nd place driver here tonight. Chevrolet's actually sweep the podium this evening. Let's get a hold of the other bow tie driver, Grant Wesley.
Granthausen!
Hey, Grant's the guys up here in the booth. You got a copy?
I got you.
Man, in position to be the first repeat winner on the season. We saw that caution come out. You only had about a tri-oval to be able to work with to get around Joe. Would you have liked to have seen those last couple of laps go green here? Did you have a plan to be able to make a move there on Joe? Because I noticed that you and the 24 seem pretty content to stay in that middle line, but you did have a lane available to the inside if you wanted to make a move on him there. Was it just too early? And then by the time that caution came out, you just didn't have enough room, not enough track to work with?
I mean, I was working really well with Joe, and I always do. Anytime I find him, you always look for those guys that you can trust, that you pretty much know where they're going to put their car, and him and I always mesh really well together. So I knew with us being out front, if we could get a 3rd guy that could push well, it'd be hard to get around us. I just want to thank Joe because, he really worked with me a few times to make sure I didn't get hung out. And yeah, I kind of stuck with him there to at least the last corner. And yeah, coming off 4, I definitely wanted to get to the inside. I felt like I had a good shot if I could have got underneath him. He blocked it, and actually it kind of slowed me down just a touch. I had to burp it just once. And at that point, I pretty well knew my bed was made. I figured I was hoping for a second place at best. But I went ahead and stuck it to the outside, and Joe kind of lost his help there in the tri-oval. I think something happened to Lovell, and I actually had a legitimate shot again, just didn't quite get there.
It was an interesting scenario with you and Joe. As you said, two of you able to work together really well during that final run, but the two of you also had a common goal here tonight, and that was see who was going to be going into next week as the overall points leader. Came into this race 4 and 5 points consecutively behind Metallic, who was not in the field here tonight. Both of you were able to net points during the midway stage. Was that in the back of your mind as you were running with the 24 during this race? Because it's certainly looking like the valuable 3 bonus points for winning the regular season championship, it looks like it's going to come down to the wire. Still 2 races left to go, but the points up there at the top, very close.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I definitely knew Joe was up there, and it was basically me, Joe, and Josh at the top of the heap. I knew Josh missed, so yeah, I was watching Joe even at the stage points. You know, I was right there behind him for that too, and actually I think he won the halfway maybe. I was 5th, so he got another 5 points there, and he gets bonus points for the wins. Yeah, he stretched it out a little bit on me. Yeah, I always want to get that points lead. Unfortunately, next week and the following week, I'm going to be missing. I'll be on vacation in Florida, going to Fort Lauderdale. So I'm looking forward to that.
Come to Orlando. What if I want to meet you guys too?
I'm getting that cheap flight to Tampa and then driving across, but yeah, looking forward to it. But yeah, I think we're locked into the top 16. We got a 100-point lead on 16th, so we'll do the reset, come back, and try to make up some ground again.
A great run for you here tonight, Grant. As you say, it looks like about 99 points between yourself and that 16 stands cut line, so you should be safe to make it. If not, you've got the victory, so I don't think you'll drop out of the top 20 and should get in through a wild card spot. I'll let Michael ask his question here before I give you the floor.
Grant, so what was going through your head in that big wreck?
Yeah, I just watched that back. So in the big wreck, I was in the middle of 3 wide. I was the 3rd row back. I was virtually in the worst place you could be. And the wreck happened in the front row. I just held the brake. I didn't slam the brake, but I just kind of drug the brake just enough to slow me down. There was cars wrecking to the left and to the right. I got hit on both sides. I thought I was going to be great. And then McCarthy kind of backed it in across my nose from the bottom and got me out of shape. And then Rodney hit me in the door. And then actually Joe, of all people, hit me and it knocked Joe around. So Joe was in that wreck, but Joe did an awesome job getting through it.
I love with how chaotic that wreck was. You're able to dissect every driver that hit you and where they hit you. How do you remember all that as the chaos is ensuing around you?
He did say he just looked at it.
I was about to say, yeah, that's...
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So he had a cheat sheet. All right. I was going to say, that's a heck of a memory.
Grant, I was like 3rd or 4th row from the back, and I just stopped. I just drugged the brake and came to a complete stop and said, "Hey guys, what's up?"
That was almost every car.
Yeah, I was just like, "Oh, we made it." But I'm glad you did, and that was fun to race with you, especially after those green flag pit stops, man.
Yes, sir.
Well, Grant, a great run for you here tonight. Obviously, we're going to miss seeing you on track these upcoming couple of weeks, but looking forward to seeing you get prepared for the playoffs in a few weeks' time. We'll give you the opportunity here now for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the owners here, Sean, Jeremy, Josh, and Jason. I think actually Jeremy, he just rolled out that new that broadcast sponsorship program. He just talked to everybody about tonight during the drivers meeting, and man, I just really appreciate all the work that Jeremy and the rest of the guys are putting in behind the scenes. Man, this is the greatest place to race. I'd like to thank the admins here on Thursday, Josh, Rodney, and Tim. Hope Josh is having a good time on vacation. FRN, Tarnation TV, Blaine, Kyle, Seth. Thanks for everything you guys do. I'd like to congratulate Joe on the win. Also, I had a pretty bad storm blow through earlier. I lost power right up until about a half hour before the drivers' meeting. So I'd like to thank my electric company, Duke Energy and Spectrum Internet, for putting in the hard work to get me going again. I'd like to thank Carrie, Gavin, Ava, Mom and Dad, and my friends and family for watching, and my teammates with XFM.
Well, that's Grant Wesley, second place here tonight. Another solid outing for driver 88. Again, enjoy your vacation here over the next couple of weeks, and we look forward to seeing you when the playoffs roll around.
Thanks.
And let's see if we can get a hold of the third Chevrolet driver on the podium. Tonight's race winner, 8th different winner on the season, Joe DeSpirito. Hey, Joe, it's the guys up here in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
I got you guys. How you doing?
Well, man, last week we unfortunately saw you running out of fuel coming off of turn number 4. Tonight you're parked in victory lane, but it kind of seemed like from our numbers, fuel was still going to be a bit of a concern, and you were leading a majority of that final run. So just how close was it going to be? How much of a godsend was that caution flag coming out, allowing you to be able to run the remainder of the race, those last couple of laps under pacing?
I think I had another lap or so. It wasn't as close as we thought there. But leading, that doesn't help. I had the fuel situation last week where I gambled and I ran out, and this week, it was fine.
Well, you came into tonight looking to get the points lead back that you lost last week. No metallic in the field, but you and the 88 seem to be just about in the same vicinity the entirety of this race. Both of you able to net stage points. You pick up your second stage victory on the season. It looks like it was going to be a really good battle here down the home stretch. We just heard from Grant, says he's going to be missing the next couple of weeks. So now is it all systems go for driver 24? These final 2 races lock up this regular season championship?
Yeah, I didn't realize Grant was going to miss any races. So it's looking up right now. Yeah, I'm just trying to be consistent, and it's working out with the stages. I'm not really doing any gambling to kind of steal stage points. It's just kind of working out. So far so good this season.
Hey, you mentioned about the consistency here as of late. 5th a few weeks ago, podium finish of 3rd 2 weeks ago, in the conversation last week, but just not enough in the tank to get to the start finish line, and then the win here tonight. We've so far, I don't want to jinx it because it's been a really fun storyline for us, but we've seen now 8 different drivers go to victory lane these first 8 races. With this consistency, is there a formula for maybe you next week to be the first multi-time winner of season 68?
With the way this setup is and the lotto qualifying, there's almost no formula now. Really just have clean pit stops. But I kind of lucked out with that big wreck at the beginning. I made it through there with no damage. A lot of people were damaged, so that helped out tonight. But there's almost no strategy now. The first, second, and third lane all get bottled up, and you just got to cross your fingers that you're not in the wreck.
Yeah, you mentioned about getting involved in that massive wreck. It's the biggest wreck that we can remember seeing here on Thursday nights in recent memory, but able to get through relatively unscathed and be able to pick up the victory here tonight. Yeah, you mentioned about there being really no strategy. We've seen a little bit of everything down the second half of this regular season, making that push towards the playoffs. We've seen fuel strategy races. We've seen big wrecks late play a decisive role into the outcome and who's positioned in points going into the following respective weeks. We've obviously seen the intensity pick up as well, and with 2 races left to go, do you feel that that's just going to continue to ramp up here? Obviously, different drivers with different agendas, whether it's battling for the regular season championship, battling to get up into the top 16. Of course, we got the bracket challenge going on here as well, so there's a whole bunch of different things for drivers to think about. Do you expect that same intensity here for these final 2 races, or do you think that we're going to reach a new level in intensity that we haven't yet seen?
Yeah, I think we're going to reach a new level of intensity with this new points format with the stages at halfway there, the bonus points. I think people are going to start gambling and going crazy, and people are going to be on different fuel strategies. And you're going to see people up front that aren't normally up front, and people aren't going to know who's running out of fuel and who needs to pit. And it's going to be a crapshoot sometimes, and you never know what's going to happen. So yeah, it's going to get crazy.
Well, able to park it in victory lane here tonight after a crazy race. Congratulations on your victory tonight, Joe. We'll let you get back to your celebrating here in a moment, but first we're going to turn things over to you for victory lane. Thank you, sponsors and shoutouts.
Appreciate it, guys. I want to thank all the admins at RTG, and I want to thank the broadcast guys, you guys, FRN, and Blaine at Tarnation TV. Sponsorships, Race LM, Sarlin's Paints, Mobs Motors, Old City Fly Shop. I want to always shout out Bones and all of our drivers that we've lost here at RTG, and all my friends and family watching at home, Uncle T, LC, Dan, and all my work buddies. Thanks, guys.
That's Joe DeSpirito.
Good job,
picks up
Joe.
the victory here tonight. 8th different driver to go to victory lane. Congratulations. Enjoy the victory, and best of luck these final 2 races of the regular season. You look to maybe wrap up this regular season championship.
Appreciate it, guys. Yes, sir. Good night.
Joe DeSpirito in victory lane here this evening. The streak, at least for now, Kyle, is intact. 8 different drivers in these first 8 races finding victory lane. Still 2 races left to go. I find it interesting here, too, because we talk about all these different storylines, whether it's drivers, whether it's points, whether it's playoff scenarios. And I think a big factor, specifically in this season, that we don't really take into account is the time of year. A lot of seasons that we cover, it'll either be in the fall when things are starting to get chilly, and so drivers are inside, or beginning of a new year when things are not quite yet warming up. But we're right in the middle of June, of July, those summer months when everybody's on vacation. So we just heard that Grant's not going to be here for 2 weeks. There was no Metallic tonight. I had actually forgotten that I saw a post earlier this evening where Donnie Garrett is on vacation as well. Just the timing of the year makes things really interesting in terms of the availability of these drivers and the scenarios, whether it be beginning, middle, or end of the regular season, of who's going to make the playoffs or not.
Yeah, I never really took into consideration, but yeah, very good point there. People on vacation here left and right. So that's definitely going to cause a lot of these drivers to try to get themselves as high up into the point standing as they possibly can before they have to go on vacation or something. So
I didn't
it's
notice
really
something interesting.
It's played a big part in the season so far, for sure.
Seth, if you're looking at the same points I am, which is I think how you do it, you always go to the TC 68, right?
Correct.
I'm in a 3-way tie with 11th place in points.
Yeah.
At least
Wow.
until
I was actually just going to ask you a question too, Michael, because from a driver's point of view, you've obviously taken every green flag so far here this season. You're currently sitting 13th in the standings. I was looking at how close the points are right now. I think there's about 6-point separation from 9th to 15th in points right now with 2 races to go. Obviously, a lot can change from right now to when you gear up to take the green flag next week, but is there some type of a formulated strategy to keep yourself above that cut line with how close things are? We still got 132 laps until these playoffs are put together.
Well, right now my strategy is to take your insane luck at qualifying so I can qualify higher than 25th.
You got to come in a triple-digit 990-something number. That's how Blaine was able to get the front row. I think it was last week. That's the only way you're able to qualify well.
Yep. I'm tied for 11th in points technically. However, that may change depending on how the admins rule what happened, because I believe it was the 43 of Richard Martin that did get into the 880, coming to the yellow flag. So that could change depending on how the admins rule that. But I'm trying to build out of that deficit. Last week was a real bummer. Rod, if you're listening to me, you owe me a car. And I'm trying to build out of that deficit if I can talk, which I can't because, stuff. But I'm having fun. I really am. It's really fun to be out here with these guys, and I love feeding information to Kyle when I hear you guys in the background, even though my stream's on delay.
Kyle, obviously, with 2 races still left to go, we heard from even our race winner. He says he feels that things are going to ramp up in intensity Obviously, as we just alluded to, how close the points are from inside of the top 10 to back around the 15th, 16th position, where we know that's going to be our crucial focal point in the regular season finale. I find it hard to argue with Joe's feeling that things are going to maybe hit a new level with only 2 races left to go and a number of big names that are still clamoring to stay in or get above that 16th in the standings cut line.
Yeah, you got a lot of drivers looking at that 16th position in points. You have a lot of drivers looking at the possibility of getting in on a wild card. So they're going to be up there trying to, pick up a victory if they can. So, yeah, the next 2 weeks are going to be really exciting. That is for sure.
It is going to be a lot of fun to follow here as drivers look to make their postseason plans, some for the regular season championship, some to just clinch themselves a playoff spot, or as you said, to maybe put themselves in position for one of those wild card spots inside of the top 20. But 2 races stand between those drivers and when that playoff grid will finally be officially compiled. Looking forward to seeing what the next 2 weeks have in store for these RTG drivers. Congratulations once again to Joe DeSpirito, becomes the 8th different driver to find victory lane here in season 68 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. We thank you for spending your Thursday evening with us. We'll see you guys next week. For Blaine Donlin, Kyle Matthews, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys for next week's continuation of the Talladega Challenge Series here on the Flatter Racing Network and Tarnation TV.